After rewatching Alien Covenant and reading its novelization, I had another idea for where terrifyingly hostile Xenomorphs could have originated from other than David. During the novel, with the conversation between David and Orm within David's laboratory, we see several more details that were absent from the film. We see David showing Orm fossilized remains ovomorphs and a deceased facehugger within it, claiming that it was of engineered design. After discovering this, the God complex David would express his desire to create a similar perfected organism. This would all imply that the Xenomorph species that we know was created by the engineers, which lines up with the mirror we see in Prometheus. During the movie, we learn that David had refined his research and experimentation during his decade-long isolation on Planet 4, eventually giving rise to the Predator through the combination of tissue samples gathered from the deceased Elizabeth Shaw, engineers, and Xenomorphs spawned from the indigenous life forms of the planet, using the black goo as the catalyst. Transitioning into the black goo, we see that it is a biological agent developed by the engineers, used as both a catalyst for complex life on planets, as well as a potent bioweapon. When exposed to living organisms, it will either outright kill said being or horribly mutate them, with this effect even being seen as Xenos themselves in the form of the Pathogen Queen. Another interesting thing to note is Ridley Scott's original intention with the Xenomorph lifespan, where he explained that the Xeno itself will have a shorter lifespan, approximately around 4 days, before ultimately dying. With all this information in mind, my theory is that originally, the engineers would use the black goo to not only start life on planets, but also to cleanse worlds they deemed as failures. However, due to how dangerous and virulent the pathogen would be, and not wanting it to spread to themselves and the planets they deemed successful, the engineers would create a more living, controllable bioweapon, using the pathogen and eventually giving birth to the Xenomorphs. The Xenomorphs would be released on the planets the engineers deemed unworthy, with the hostile species quickly overwhelming whatever planet they were unleashed upon and dying shortly thereafter, allowing the engineers to recolonize the planet and start their life-creating cycle anew. However, after the containment breach on the Juggernaut and LP-426 and the discovery of the eggs, the Xenos would quickly spread across the planet and the universe, establishing themselves as a formidable race in the cosmos and evolving their species as a whole, giving rise to other variants of them like the Praetorian and the Queen. Later on, after discovering both the fossils and the blueprints on the engineer's planet, David would use the black goo to reverse engineer the creation of the Xenomorphs, using this process and incorporating the Predator we see in Alien Covenant.